Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Omoyera Oluwatosin. On the channel today, I am going to show you how to cut and sew a notch collar crop top. And if this is a video you are interested in, please keep on watching. And these are the measurements you'll be needing for this tutorial. The fabric and tools you'll be needing for this tutorial is the fabric of your choice, a taping machine, tape roll, pencil or marker. You need the fabric and paper scissors, you need the French curve, you need your pins, you need your rollers and set square, you need a tracing wheel, and you need your half scale bodice blocks. I'm working with the front half scale bodice block, with the back half scale bodice block, and the working sleeve pattern. That's all. Firstly, let's work with the back half scale bodice block. What you see me doing in the video is highlighting the dart. I'm not going to remove it. We're going to sew the back dart. The next thing I'm going to draw the annotation and green lines. So what I have here, it means that the fabric is going to cut on full. Now we don't want our back pattern to have a shoulder dart. I'm going to transfer the shoulder dart to the armor, and that's what you see me doing right now. After transferring the shoulder dart to the armor, please retrace the armor and cut it out. And if the pattern you are working with doesn't have a shoulder dart, please don't panic, just work with your pattern like that. After you are done cutting it out, the next thing you need to do is to measure your neck side and record the reading. What I have here is 3.5 inches, so I'm going to record this reading 3.5 inch. Now that's all. This is what the back part of your pattern should look like. Now let's work with the front pattern. This is what your front pattern should look like, and if you are working with a pattern that doesn't have a bust dart, please work with it like that. So the first thing you need to do is to indicate the top line. So this is how you should do that. From the neck point, just extend a line, and that is the top line of this pattern. From the top line, you need to measure the under bust line. So from the top line, I'm going to place my tape on the top line and measure the under bust line and rule across my mark point. After labeling the under bust line, the next line you should draw is your princess armhole. So any line that goes from the bust point into any part of the armhole is a princess armhole. Now the first thing you have to do, you have to move up from the bust point 1 inch to create room for your bust. So that's what I'm doing right now. From that new point, I'm going to draw a curved line into the armhole. Next, I'm going to move down 1 inch from the pulse point to create more rooms for my bust. So after doing that, I'm going to withdraw my darts, and that's all. Next, you want to cut through the under bust line and close the remaining darts. After closing the dart, set this pattern aside. Let's work on the lapel part of this pattern. Next, I'm going to alter the back neckline by moving in 0.25 of an inch and reblending the neckline. I remeasure and record the back neck side measurement. On the front pattern, I move up from the under bust line 0.5 inch on the center front line. This is where the lapel will stop. I extended the neck point a bit forward, so from the neck point I'm going to mark 1 inch. 1 inch. Then I'm going to connect this 1 inch to the 0.5 inch that I marked earlier on. This is going to be our roll line. After getting the roll line, you want to come out from the center front by 1.5 inch. So this is 1.5 inch. From that point, you're going to move down half an inch and blend this new point into the neckline. Next, you want to extend the roll line a bit upward. By doing this, you are starting to draft your collar. Remember that we've altered the back neckline and we called our reading. Now we don't have 3.5, we have 3.625. Now you're going to mark 0.625 from the neck point, and after that, you use your set square to get a straight line, like you see me doing. From that straight line, you're going to mark 1 inches from the roll line. Now, before drafting the back neck curve of the collar, you're going to alter the neck point the same way you alter the back neck point by moving in 0.25 of an inch, that is quarter of an inch. Then you're going to connect it with a curve, a slight curve into the new neck point. After doing that, you are going to plot a new neck curve. At this point, this is what your pattern should look like. Connect the lapel to the 0.5 inch from the underbust. Now you have your lapel to work with. So the next thing you want to do, you want to complete your collar. So that's the lapel. Using a set square, you want to get a straight line that measures 2.5 inches. That is the weight of the collar for standard collar. So I'm going to extend this line. So this line is not going to be more than 2.5 inch. Next, watch the way I place my set square. The distance from the lapel from the set square should not be more than 1 inch, and then you're going to extend a line that is not more than 1.5 inch. So make sure that it's not more than 1.5 inch. Next, you want to place the set square in such a way that you have a straight line at this point that is not more than 2 inch. After that, you're going to slightly curve this into the 1.5 inch point. Make sure it's slightly curved, it's not too curved, slightly curved. If you can use your free hand, please do it. And if you're good with French curve, please use it. And this is what you should have at the end of the day. This is what your collar should look like, and this is what the lapel part of this pattern should look like. Now I'm going to use my marker to highlight all the important lines so that you guys can see what the collar look like and what the lapel look like. The marker on the blue is for the collar and the green is for the bodies of this top. So I'm just using the marker to highlight it to create a difference. And this is what your pattern should look like at the end of the day. So I'm going to cut it off. Make sure you mark that point where the collar is connected to the top, and the collar is going to be cut on fold as well. So you're cutting two pieces for the collar, and this is what you should have at the end of the day. Now I'm going to cut out my princess seam. After cutting out the princess seam, I'm going to move in from the bust point 1 inch and redraw my dart. After redrawing the dart, slash the bust point up to the 1 inch point and close the dart. After slashing up to that point, you close the dart following the new dart lines. So this is what you should have at the end of the day. This is what your pattern set should be looking like, from the sleeve to the front and back bodies to the collar. Next, we are going to work on the sleeve. If you notice, the top have a shoulder pad, so you're going to include the shoulder pad amount into the sleeve pattern. So the first thing you're going to do, you're going to measure the shoulder pad width and you're going to move up from the top line of your sleeve and include the width amount. Then the next thing you're going to do, you're going to blend it into the sleeve. And if you notice on the top the sleeve is kind of flare at the hem, I went ahead to slash the middle point, and on both sides of this slash point I went in and out 2 inches, making 4 inches. I went ahead to add my seam allowance on both the front and back body. I also went ahead to include the shoulder pad amount on the bodice pattern. For the back, from the shoulder point I move up from the same amount 0.625, and on the front I did the same thing so that to accommodate the shoulder pad. Next I went ahead to add my seam allowance to the down part of the top, and this is what you should have at the end of the day. After adding your seam allowance, the next thing you want to do, you want to cut your pattern out. So that's what you see me doing right now. I'm cutting out the pattern from the bodice to the princess seam, back to the back shoulder and to my sleeve. Once I'm done, I will show you what it look like. Now I'm done. This is what the sleeve look like. The collar is cut on fold. This is my facing. This is the back bodice, and if you can see I already drafted my facing. What I did is from the neck point I move in 2 inches, and from the neck circumference I move in 2 inches to create a facing. And this is the facing. I cut my back facing on fold. I also repeat the same thing for the front, but because of the lapel nature of the front I did not cut it on fold. So for the sleeve I came down from the hem 1 inch, so that when I sage or weave the hem I will have 0.75 of an inch to create a channel for my elastic. Now I went ahead to cut the collar as well. The collar is on fold and I actually cut 2 pieces for it, and this is lapel for the front. You can see what I did. From the neck point I came in 2 inches, and from the center front I came in 2 inches to create a lapel for my pattern. So the facing for my pattern, not lapel. And this is the collar. The collar is cut twice and I cut it on fold. And this is the princess seam side. I also cut 2 pieces for each as well. So that's all. Now let's take me now let me show you how to sew this top. This is the sleeve. I've pinned side seam to side seam. For the back I'm going to be sewing the dart. I've pinned the princess seam of the front, leaving the lapel side, and for the collar I've added an interfacing to the facing and to the collar as well. And this is the strap that I'll be using to create our loop, and this is the collar, and this is what it look like. I've ironed and interfacing on the wrong side of the fabric. Now let's start with the sleeve. I'm actually sewing the 1 inch seam allowance, so that's what I'm doing right now. I'm sewing off the 1 inch seam allowance that I've added to the side seam of the sleeve. After sewing the sleeve I'm going to start sewing the darts for the back as well. So this is the sleeve, the second sleeve that I'm sewing. Once I'm done with the sleeve, let's go to the back bodice. I'm sewing the darts. Make sure you always cut out unwanted thread. You don't want thread hanging out on your pattern. So now I'm working on the princess seam. Please take your time. It is very tricky at this point, so take your time to sew the princess seam. After working on the bodice part of this pattern, we are going to start working on the facing. Now what you have to do is to iron and interfacing on the wrong side of your facing. Then you're going to pin right side to right side. Mash them together, and then you're going to take it to your sewing machine and you're going to sew it. After sewing it, you're going to give it a nice place. This is what it look like at this point. Please remove any thread that you don't like in your pattern. So this is what you should have. This is what it should look like. Next, you want to work on the main fabric. So now I'm placing the shoulder line to shoulder line, the front shoulder line on the back shoulder line. So I'm going to take this to the sewing machine and stitch them together. After stitching them together, I place the facing on it to see if they match, and this is what it look like at this point. So before stitching, you're going to break in your collar. So now I'm going to pin the collar on the lapel like so, and I'm going to place the facing over it like this before taking it to the sewing machine and stitch them together. So once I'm done, I'll bring it for you guys. I'll bring it back for you guys to see what the final look is like. Now this is what it look like. I've given it a nice press. Now I've added my loop to one side of this pattern. Remember, there is an inches extension at the center front, so you're going to use that half inches to secure the loop together. You place it over it like this and secure the loop together. So that's what it should look like. So I've done that, and this is what it's looking like at this point. You can see how nice and neat it turned out. I've secured it and I've finished the hair. This is the lapel part. This is how beautiful it turned out. I've gone ahead to sage the hem of the facing as well. Now we are going to fix the armhole. I'm going to be sewing the sleeve on the armhole part. So once I'm done, I'll bring it back, and this is the final look. So if this is your first time of stopping by, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel, like this video. You are free to share and like the video, and don't forget to follow us on all of our social media platforms. Do have a nice day, and bye.